First podcast. We're reviewing all of the new Elrigs and putting them in decks from the Welcome Back Diva set that's coming out on December 16th. And this one we're going to be talking about Urith, Urithomaniacal Enema. This is the new black center that's coming out, and I had a lot of hope for Urith, and then I read the card and I had less hope for Urith. So I'm gonna just straight up start this with the way I start all my videos, where I think the Elrig is not potentially all that great, and just let you know I don't think potentially it's all that great. I think it doesn't do very much to impact the game, at least right now. There's a world where it is very, very good, and that world relies on something like Wixoss gaining a dredge-esque mechanic, or sort of like a very play from the graveyard style type of deck. That deck doesn't really exist right now in Wixoss. I don't think it's going to exist in the next year with the cards that I've seen with Wixoss. So I've tried to make the deck as viable as possible for those people who really, really want to play this deck, and I've been proven wrong before. So if you guys find a way to make this deck very, very good, you know, if this is something that's like your pet project and you're gonna find a way to make it as optimal as possible, let me know what you think you guys are going to do with it and what your ideas are. This is just a jumping off point, like I said, and if you guys like it, awesome. Tell me about it. So anyways, Urith has the ability of, when it enters, you can target up to 2 black Signy in your trash and add them to your hand. Its action is once per turn. You can choose a number between 1 and 3, and you can put the number that amount of cards from your deck into the trash. So you can mill yourself any number from 1 to 3 once a turn. And then your once a game abilities, you can discard 2 cards from your hand. This Elrig gains, when it attacks, target 1 card from your trash without life burst to add it to your life cloth. So it's quote unquote free. It costs 2 cards, but it's quote unquote free, especially if you consider the fact that its enter ability basically pays for its action ability. Then you're looking at a deck that basically says have 1 turn of good card filtering, or multiple turns of good card filtering, because the milling in a black deck could be card filtering as well, because you could spend a card to get back a card from your trash. And then it also says you have 8 life cloth instead of 7. So what do you do with a deck that says you have 8 life cloth instead of 7? I think the answer is you play towards the end game, right? Naturally, you are better inclined to go to a longer game just because you have a higher HP bar than the rest of the decks in the meta does. So that's probably the first direction you go towards. The second direction you go towards is you see that you have mill abilities. And not only do you have mill abilities, but you have consistent deck filtering as long as those cards are black, which means that you probably want to be playing mostly black in your deck. I've seen a lot of lists play 3 black like Elrigs in their deck. I don't think I'd go that crazy. I think you can do something else. I chose green here for a specific reason, that reason being Nightmare Step, and I like Bang de Capo. Bang de Capo probably gets replaced in the next set with Mel when that comes out, because that'll give you a green 3-stop. You could do a white 3-stop, or you could do a black, or you could do a white 3-stop, or you could do a blue 3-stop as well in Madoka Clap, or MC Lion Disrespect. If you go through the MC Lion Disrespect option, you could change, literally, by the way, just to be clear here, I don't really have any green specific cards, so I have some green double colored cards. You could replace those out with just white double colors, and you basically accomplish the same thing. You take out Nightmare Step, and then you put in Super Celestia Saber. If you're doing blue, you could do the same thing, where you replace the blue cards out with the the multicolored, and then you go ahead, or Hakots, for example, is a good one in that scenario. And then you go ahead and you change out Nightmare Step for something else. You could use the blue-black Azor card that makes your opponent discard cards and lets you get some more cards from your trash. But without any further ado, let's just dive into the deck. So, like I said, I have Bang de Capo and Bang Crescendo here. This gives you some early enter to work with, which I always like. I think that's actually one of the workhorse things that green assists do that people don't respect enough, is that early enter gets you a lot to work with. Early enter can also be spent, which means that stuff can go to your trash pretty early, which could be nice for you. And then Bang to Capo. I think it's still a solid card. It's 3 enter, prevent the next 2 damage that you'd be dealt at all. Helps you get more towards that late game, like I said, that you want to be at. I think it's a really solid card overall. And plus, let's be honest, that art is absolutely killer. Then we've got the Machina, Wing Slash, and Smash. I really wish I could say that, hey, look, here's a deck without Machina in it. But these decks are consistent. They add a lot of versatility that the decks right now need but lack, and there's not really other Elrigs that function this way and do this type of thing. Plus, we need another black Elrig no matter what. And I didn't really want to play Toko or Musica because I don't think they add enough as assists to the deck. Toko can, if I wanted to be more aggressive and basically be the black version of Anj and really accelerate my deck. But again, I'm trying to go late game, not necessarily that like that. And plus, this deals with trash recursion, which again is something I said that you'd want. So it pairs nicely. It's a shame. Machina pairs nicely with non-black decks and pairs really nicely with black decks. So there's really no time you're not wanting to use the Machina. Enough of Machina. Let's talk about Death Deck. So Death Deck, you're naturally milling yourself out. So Death Deck is always basically going to be a 3 enter. Bring back 2 Signy that share a color. Again, we're basically playing only black in this deck, so you'll always be bringing back black cards, and then milling your opponent for 10, which is good. Then we've got Nightmare Step. Nightmare Step's sort of my spicy card for this. Nightmare Step says that as long as you have a green and black Elrig, as long as there are 24 more cards in your trash, put all Signy on your opponent's field into the enter. So it's a non-targeted board wipe, which helps with a lot of scenarios. This costs 6 enter, which is quite a lot. And one of the reasons why, again, the Bang is actually pretty good here, because getting enter to throw in the Nightmare Step is actually very, very strong. I also think that you got to remind yourself that it's actually 19 cards you need in the trash, because the 6 enter that you pay for will bring you up to 25. 19 cards in the trash is actually quite a lot, but when we're playing Baphomet, when we're also having our main ability being milling, I think this is one of the only decks that can reliably do this. And I like a late game win condition in some decks, like where it's just like, no, I will win this game, and you're just putting it down there. 6 enter, I'm wiping the board. It's overcosted, but it will get me what I need done. I think that's fine. We've got Baphomet here. Baphomet just helps with that early mill. Again, it pairs really nicely with the Machina Wing Slash, so you can get something back to your hand that you've milled. It also pairs really nicely, again, we're in a self-mill deck, with the Caesar Doomed General here, which is got the enter ability, pay black if there are 7 or more cards in your trash. This Signy gains constant, while there's a Signy with 5,000 power or lower in front of the Signy, it gains Assassin until end of turn. So it gets Assassin pretty easily. With Baphomet, you actually have a pretty good chance to hit this turn 2. Not the greatest chance in the world, but a pretty good chance to hit this turn 2. Turn 3 and on, you're always going to hit it, which is quite good. I've got 2 Fragor here. I think they're fine. I don't love the Fragor here, but I think they're okay. If you really wanted to swap these Fragor out with I'm brain farting on the name right now, but the level 1 that is it's a virtual and does -1000 when it enters, and it doesn't cost anything. I think you're fine to do that too. There's enough 2000 targets that Fragor is actually pretty okay. Moving right along, we've got a new card coming out, which is Lucifer, Doomed Evil Queen. At the beginning of your attack phase, it's level 3 by the way, at the beginning of your attack phase, target black Signy on your opponent's field gets -2000 power for each turn for each black Elrig on your field. I think that's a typo. Let me just real quick check, because I don't think that's how it's supposed to be. Boop, boop, boop. Bear with me, guys. We're doing it live. Oh, they haven't put this one out yet, so I gotta check the wiki. We're still doing it live. And welcome back, Diva. Lucifer. Yes. So that's a typo in here. It's at the beginning of your attack phase. Target Signy on your opponent's field gets negative 2,000 power on until end of turn for each black Elrig on your field. If this effect causes power to become 0 or less, put the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck into their trash, and the action ability is discard 2 cards, add target black Signy from your trash to your hand. So it's a little bit of trash recursion, which is great. But also, you have 2 black Elrigs, so you're going to be giving negative 4,000 to things, which negative 3,000 is enough to certainly kill stuff. But this is also enough to start shrinking things down and winning those battles with that type of thing. Plus, you'll be playing it's mostly there because you'll be playing other things that give negative as well. And so this paired with those other things can straight up kill stuff, right? Like the Animirages and stuff. Moving right along, we have the Phalaris here. Now, so Phalaris, again, says that when you attack, if it vanishes the opponent's Signy, you mill them for 10. This is really good. Your deck has a lot of ways to bring this specific card back over and over and over again, so it ends up being quite strong there. We have the multicolored. I just chose the Angel because I thought it was cool art, but you could choose any of them. If you want the Venom one, go for it. And then we have a Steampunks. This does not function as well as it does in the Deus decks, but it still has a job to perform here, which is that you will mill it. You will, if you're against discard decks, you will be able to bring this back quite often. And there is ways to use the exceed costs in your deck. So this can be brought back as a way to snipe something with a negative 8,000. In the only real deck, the only real card that we're doing, I'm trying to see where it is here, that we're doing that is that has an exceed cost is this, where you can pay exceed 3, and then if you do, it gains plus 7,000 power because it awakens. 7,000 power on your 8,000 means that this thing is 15,000 powered, which means that it blocks everything. So 15,000 power is actually pretty good. This card is not seeing much play in America right now, and that's just because I think really right now the power is 13k, and really the power is 12k. We don't have a ton of 13ks. Moving forward, we'll have a ton of 13ks. We're going to have a lot of Remembers, and I think that this blocks that really well. So I think we'll see more of these in sort of our black late game decks coming up. I think it's a good tech choice. And also, again, like I said, you could play this. You could bring back your Steampunk. You could play this. You could exceed, and then you'll have a negative 8,000 effect to go with. Talking about more negative 8,000 effects, we have Animirage, just always a really good lane filler option, and also power reduction on your stuff. It's just a 2 of because again, you don't want to ever play more than a ton of Rise Signy. We got an Aresh. Again, since our deck is a lot of silver bullets, I'm not actually a huge fan of Aresh anymore, but I think Aresh does a job here, where it's a really good life burst. Otherwise, it's basically just enter, and the upside is that you can pull this out if you need to against your opponent. It's actually pretty cool thinking about it out loud here, that you can recover one of your life cloth, and that will then maybe take your life cloth from 1 to 2, and then you can then pay with the Aresh cost and probably win on that turn by wiping the field. It's definitely worth considering. I think it's actually pretty cool. I think this is probably the best deck for Aresh, not to say that Aresh is the best card ever. So you can see I'm playing a few extra green cards here, but this one can be replaced with whatever color that you wanted to, right? This is one of the new cycles that just has a life burst that say, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add 3 of them to your hand and put the rest on the bottom. This is defense against discard decks. Again, if you were playing blue, there's a version of this in blue. If you're playing white, there's a version of this in white. So you could go ahead and just swap this one real easily to the color swapped version of it. We've got Mormasa as a one of. This actually has a pretty cool life burst, which is that you can find a specific Signy and put it into your hand. Outside of that, it's basically just allowing you to filter cards from your trash and put it into your hand. Again, this is stuff so you can loop, like, for example, you can loop things like the Phalaris over and over and over again with this type of thing. 4 servants because that's pretty normal, and 4 Tama because why not? We're gonna at least have 10 cards in our trash, so we're gonna have a 13K powered Tama. It also is just colors everything black, which is cool. Doesn't really do much in this deck, but is cool. The Shadow level 2 or less Signy is pretty good, and then it mills your opponent if they end up killing stuff on your field, black cards on your field, and that's, you know, totally fine and dandy. You have a sub theme of milling out your opponent, so it's pretty okay there. Then we have another version here, another green card, just to make green colors that I'm trying to hit green color requirements. We have Tasmanian Phantom Terror Beast. This is a vanilla vanish target Signy on your opponent's field, power 7,000 or more. There's different versions of this in white, less versions of this in blue, but you could just replace it with another blue card and be perfectly happy with it. Maybe like GA, because that makes the opponent discard cards. Or maybe the freeze stuff if you want to just have a little bit of board control at that point. And it would be perfectly fine to replace it if you're replacing out green for a different color. We went over the Typhon Doomed Evil. And the last card here to talk about is the Digger. This allows you to also have it exceed, and you got to remember, guys, there is actually a magical number here. This is exceed 3, and this is exceed 4, meaning that you can exceed out your whole team more or less with this, and you do get the ability to do both exceed stuff. This is something rare that most decks aren't able to do, but if you're a black deck, you can do with this type of thing. It has the ability to get rid of something early game, and then if you get it late game, it basically gets rid of most things late game as well. It does negative 12,000, which might not get rid of your 13Ks things, but that's where the Fragger Ash or the Lucifer comes in and makes things shrink, and then you can kill them off. And that's the Urith deck. So let me know what you guys think about it. I know that this isn't the most optimal deck in the world, but I tried to make it as viable as possible and give you guys some other options to play around with and use this as a jumping off point. If you guys are going to jump off with this and do something else, let me know in the comments down below what you plan to do.